Hey everyone! In this video, I'll discuss a few of my favorite applications of genetics. As you go through the video, as always, remember to fill out the learning guide. And at the end of the video, you should be able to answer one question. And our question is, how has human medicine been improved by the application of genetics? One of the applications of genetics in medicine is using genetic family trees, or pedigrees, to determine the probability of a couple, here mom and dad, of having an offspring with a genetic disease. In pedigrees, females are circles and males are squares, and affected people, or people with a genetic condition, appear filled in. In this pedigree, two unaffected parents have given birth to an affected daughter, and in this pedigree, the genetic condition that's being described is sickle cell anemia, which, as you learned previously, is caused by having two HBBS alleles. So we know that their one daughter is HBBS, and since neither parent has the disease, they must have at least one HBB plus allele each. And since the daughter must get one HBBS allele from mom and one HBBS allele from dad, then both mom and dad must be heterozygous. Using probability, which we'll get to later in the course, we can determine that if this couple has another child, that child will have a 1 in 4 chance of being anemic, which is information these parents might want to have when deciding whether they want to have another child. Genetic counseling is an increasingly popular field that involves interpreting pedigrees and helping patients understand them. Genetics also plays a large role in cancer research. As we've seen from our study of the HBB gene, some genes, like this one, when mutated, are responsible for a genetic disease, in the case of HBB, sickle cell anemia. Cancer is another genetic disease that's caused by mutation. As this cancer development diagram shows, for most cancers to develop, several genes must all be mutated. Identification of these genes and the determination of their functions is leading to improved treatment options. There are many ways to determine the function of genes, some of which we'll discuss in the future. In the field of cancer genetics, one way to identify mutations that cause cancer, or that at least could cause cancer, is to determine the DNA sequence of genes from normal cells and then compare them to the DNA sequence from cancerous cells to try and identify the cancer-causing mutations. These mutations and the genes that they occur in are then studied further to see if the mutation could actually be a cause of the type of cancer being studied. Genetic testing, or the sequencing of one's DNA to improve a diagnosis or treatment, is becoming increasingly common. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if 10 years from now, genetic testing is just part of a normal yearly checkup. There are many uses for genetic testing. One really fascinating one is pharmacogenomics, which is basically just a fancy way of saying that you're trying to determine how a patient, based on their genotype, will respond to a drug. For example, people of certain genotypes may metabolize or break down a given drug faster than other people. So there are slower metabolizers and faster metabolizers. Now the faster metabolizers will need higher doses of the drug because their body breaks it down faster. Changing the dosage based on how fast they break it down, which remember was determined by genetic testing, ensures that their cells are exposed to the right concentration of the drug. Although this isn't really a medical application, another application of genetic testing is tracing one's ancestry. This uses the same DNA sequencing technology as we mentioned before to find mutations that could cause cancer. Here, when you have ancestry testing done, you're having your DNA sequenced, and that sequence is compared to all the other people around the world. Well, not all of them, but those other people who have actually had their DNA sequenced as well. If parts of your DNA are similar to people from a certain part of the world, then it's likely that some of your DNA was passed down to you by people from that part of the world. In other words, they're your ancestors. Well, everyone, there you have it. A few of my favorite applications of genetics, and of course there are many, many others, some of which we'll cover as we go through the course. Okay, so at this point you should be familiar with the applications of genetics we discussed, and as always, feel free to watch part or all of the video again if you'd like to review. Now, in the next video, you'll take a look at a pretty new and very exciting medical treatment called gene therapy. Enjoy.